saving money to help our kids go to college or trade school has never been easy. And frankly, one of a parent's best tools to do this is something called the 529 account in the United States, which lets us put money into a college savings account, lets it grow tax-free, and if we spend it on what the government calls qualified educational expenses, lets us take that money out tax-free as well. So that's a really powerful tool. But frankly, it's always, the 529 accounts have also had some severe limitations. And I'm glad to say that some of those limitations have been addressed and go into effect in 2024, which is why I wanted to make today's video. Everything you need to know about 529 accounts. Okay, let's jump in and start talking about it. And the first thing I want to talk about is just what the limits are. How much money can you put into a 529 account? And, you know, a lot of people would say you can only put in the gift amount, which in 2024 is going to be $18,000 a year per child. And you know what? That's kind of true, but it's not the complete truth. The complete truth is you can put in as much as you want up to the state's limit, but you're going to have to file a gift tax return if you do that. So if you don't want to file the gift tax return, if you don't want to have to worry about the lifetime gift tax exemption that we have and using that up, then you're limited to the $18,000 a year in 2024. But with 529 accounts, they have a 5-year rule that you can apply. So not only is it $18,000 a year, but you can put in 5 years worth of contributions in 1 year. So that's 5 times 18,000 is $90,000 a year. And if you're married, each spouse can put that in per child. So that's $180,000. So there's probably no reason that you have to use up some of your gift tax exemption to fund a 529 account. So, you know, that's one rule. Now, that gift tax exemption is for all your gifts to your child. So if you gave your child maybe $2,000 to help them buy their first car, now that year you can only give them $16,000, right? Because you can only give each child $18,000 a year. But again, that's per parent, per person that you can do it. So each parent can give that $18,000 a year. And again, you can do that one time 5-year gift, and I shouldn't say one time, it's a 5-year average that you can put in. But some states do, well, most states have limits. The maximum contribution, and it varies by state. So for instance, Arizona says you can only contribute $575,000, New Hampshire only $569,000, Utah only $560,000. That's a lot of money. And you got to ask yourself, what are you going to do with that money if your child doesn't use it all? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The lowest limits, Georgia is $235,000. North Dakota is $269,000. So that's for each parent in the Georgia or the North Dakota state-run 529 account. Those are the limits, but each parent can have a 529 account for each child. Now, you can have 529 accounts in different states. I don't know why you would want to put over $500,000 in a 529 account, but if you do want to, you can do that. Now, it's also important to know that some of the big negatives with 529 accounts are how do you use up that money? What happens if you overfund it, right? So let's go for a walk and talk about what happens if you overfund a 529 account. And a 529 account can grow pretty quickly. Let's say you put $10,000 in an account when a child is first born. You know, they have so much time that, you know, if what you get is an 8% return a year using a cheat code for financial advisors, we use some called the Rule of 72, which tells us that every 9 years, basically, this money is going to double. 9 times 8 is 72. Subject for a different video, but that money, let's just for the sake of argument say, is going to double every 9 years. There's no guarantees that that's going to happen. But if you put it in a newborn's account, let's say they start college when they're 18, you put $10,000 and it doubles by the time they're 9 years old. that's $20,000. It doubles again, it's $40,000. So you could end up with 4 times the amount of money that you initially put in day one in a 529 account. Now, what happens if your child doesn't use it? Well, it used to be the old strategy. There were a couple things you could do. You can take it out. You've got to pay a 10% penalty. You've got to pay ordinary income tax on all of that earnings. People don't like doing that. So a lot of people would say, well, I'll just leave it in the account. And when my child has a child, then it will grow for my grandchild's benefit. And that's a good strategy, but that's a long period of time. And the question is, how much money do you want to put in your grandchild's college education versus how much money is your child going to be putting in your grandchild? How much money is your child going to be putting in their child's college education, right? So one of the new things that goes into effect in 2024 is a lot of us have said, hey, government, yeah, we love the 529 account, but let's say my kid was a really hard worker and got a nice scholarship to college, and now I have this overfunded 529 account that I have to pay tax on. It'd be nice if there was another solution for us. And the government said, okay, we hear you. And what we're going to allow you to do is we're going to allow you to take money out of that account and roll it into a Roth IRA. Now, there's all kinds of rules that you have to comply with, as you'd expect with a government program. But essentially, if you had the account open for 15 years or more, which is a lot, and for money that's been in the account that was contributed over 5 years ago, you can roll up to $35,000 of the money in the 529 account into a Roth IRA, which is a really powerful tool that allows that money to grow tax-free, and your child will never have to pay tax on that when they take the money out. So it's a great solution, but your child also has to comply with the other rules. Again, this is just to put it on your radar screen, but the chief amongst those other rules is they have to have earned income. So you can't just put $35,000 a year into the account. It has the same annual limitations. How much money you can put in a year is limited, and it can only be up to the max of their earned income or that year's annual limit. So it's a nice solution, but it's not a complete solution. I did mention keeping the money in the account for a grandchild, right? So if your child doesn't use it, maybe you keep it, and then you can help out that grandchild. And the nice thing is, from a student loan perspective, when your child's child goes to college, it used to be that the grandparent's contribution counted as kind of like earned income for the grandchild, which FAFSA counted and said the child needs their contribution to their education is up to 50% of their income plus 5.64% of the parent's assets. So as a grandparent, having money in a 529 account was not the best strategy, because the student aid offices would say, oh, that's money from grandma and grandpa. That's a cash gift to that child. That counts as earned income for that child for financial aid reasons. And because of that, the child has to contribute half of that towards their education. So the grandparent 529 was severely limited, but starting in the 2024-2025 school year, that's no longer the case. It doesn't show up for the child. Now, and what really drove that, the government did not necessarily set that rule in place for this reason, but the FAFSA account is now based on the child's income tax return. And the child, if you have a 529 account and you're paying, helping with their college expenses or their trade school expenses, that's not taxable income for the child. And so because it doesn't show up on the child's tax return, it doesn't show up on the FAFSA account. Now that could change in the future, and I'm not an accountant. This is not financial advice for you, but I want to put this on the radar screen because a 529 can be a super powerful tool for helping a child or a grandchild pay for college expenses. And in the subject of everything you need to know. Not only can you as a parent, if your child doesn't use all the money, not only can you save it for that child's child that they may or may not have down the road, but you can also transfer it to your other children. So that's a very clear example of what is allowed. Now it's for family members, connected family members. I forget the exact term that's used, but you want to look that up. Essentially, it's any child that shares the same grandparent. So essentially you could transfer that money to like cousins as well. Now, few parents say, well, if my child doesn't use it, I'm going to give it to my nieces and nephews. They typically want to keep it with their child in one form or the other. But 529s have always been a powerful tool, even more powerful now. And one of the things that's super powerful for all of us is if you're saving significant amounts of money in 529 accounts, you're sacrificing, you're doing a lot of things well. And I want to see you get the fruits from that labor, take advantage of all the hard work that you've done. And for that reason, I want you to watch this video up here, which talks about 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.